The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. And sometimes we do these deep dives and explore agencies. And that's what we have for you today. This week, you're going to see an episode where we recorded in Minneapolis when we spent 2 days inside Colle McVoy, an agency known for its integrated approach and standout creative work. So we kicked things off at their ad bowl panel, diving into the Super Bowl ads. It was one day after the big game, but we stuck around to go behind the scenes on Colle McVoy's own Super Bowl activations. And we wanted to get the full picture of what it's like to work at Colle McVoy. How does the agency operate internally to support its people? And for the brands, what is it like to work with Colle McVoy as a creative partner? So to break it all down, we sat with Gina Gray, Chief Growth Officer, and John Doyle, Chief Strategy Officer, two of the agency's newly minted C-suite. And they shared their insights on how Colle McVoy is growing, integrating disciplines, and standing out in a competitive agency landscape. So it's a great conversation. We talk about their collective method and look at how they're winning clients like Value City Furniture and Lazy Boy while maintaining an impressive 90% employee retention rate. So whether you're an ad nerd, a brand marketer, or someone looking to break into this business, this episode is for you. Now let's get into it. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Gina Gray and John Doyle, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you both doing today?
We're doing good.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Sun's shining.
The sun is shining. Yes, it looks great outside.
It's -5, but the sun's out, so we're good.
Which is very nice. Yes. So we're here to talk with you both, get to know you. Gina, your role is Chief Growth Officer here at Colle McVoy, and John, you are Chief Strategy Officer. We got 2 C's here. So.
New C's. We're new C's.
New C's.
Yes.
When did you both start?
Well, we're new in that we've been here for a long time. The C designation was just recently bestowed upon us, so we feel the pressure and weight of that new C.
There's been some jokes played. There's been some signs posted around the agency.
Nice.
So,
well, congrats on that. I think we want to get an understanding. We've been here for the past 2 days now. We got one more day here, learning what it's like to work at Colle McVoy. We were here for the ad bowl, and that was also amazing too. But I want to understand how you are growing this agency, and whether that's internally, the processes that you all engage with to help your employees, and then externally, how do you get new clients? How do you get them to grow as well? So that's going to be what we're uncovering here. And integration is the word that we're going to be starting off with. Integration might be one of the most overused buzzwords in advertising. I think everybody claims to be integrated, but few truly are. Mm-hmm. So I want to understand from your perspectives, the new C's here, how does Colle McVoy ensure integration is more than just a talking point?
So I came to Colle McVoy 6 years ago from Target, where I was on the agency relations team. So hiring, sort of parting ways with agency evaluations for Target's roster of, 50 plus agencies. And in fact, that's where I met Colle McVoy, fell in love with Colle McVoy, and wanted to work here because I loved the humans. I got to work with John and et cetera. So I've been sort of part of the integrated agency journey for quite some time. And I think there was a point in time where everybody was integrated and everybody was full service, and then everybody was breaking it up, and there were media agencies, there was design agencies, or creative agencies. Colle McVoy's always been fully integrated. But when I first came here 6 years ago, yes, we were fully integrated, but we still had a lot of like media only clients, design only clients, PR only clients. We don't see a lot of that anymore. We do start to see RFPs will come in. I'm looking for a social agency or whatever. But I think one of the things that we've done a really good job over the past couple of years is that's great that you're looking for a social agency, but we're actually going to come and solve your business problems from the full muscle of the agency.
Incredible. Yeah. And then, so that's a good point. Like having only clients that want to find media, like there's a lot of agencies that claim they're fully integrated, but they only have some brands that are working on media or PR. But here you're seeing more that there's a full service approach with the clients that you're working with.
We've seen a lot of success in is tackling the problems from all different angles. And, we do still see how you're growing, to your point, like your question earlier, we are getting very specific opportunities from brands, but we like to help them rethink about what their problem is and how we can come at it from different angles.
Totally.
I would add, I think that if integration describes a collection of capabilities that might otherwise be partitioned into specialty agencies, media, design, PR, in our case, the collection of capabilities we have here, I think it's more the cross-functional approach that matters here. Meaning, like, I've worked in integrated agencies in the past or in holding company scenarios where ostensibly you have access to multiple pure play agency types. Whether you're a media agency, you can tap into a digital agency or quote unquote creative agency, whatever that means today. To say nothing of the potential barriers to accessing those capabilities in those kinds of scenarios, whether it's separate P&Ls, separate culture, separate incentives, et cetera. Very frequently, even in an all-in-one agency where all those capabilities are housed in one, their working process can often be sequential. You do not get to tap into a late stage additions, capabilities, insights early enough to make a difference. And I think our culture, really our P&L structure, which we only have one, and our approach to working our workflow cross-functionally is a more important thing than the fact that we have an integrated capabilities offering.
Amazing. But I'm curious because we're seeing a lot more clients look for this roster approach. Is it the AOR dead is those headlines that we see in Adweek and Ad Age and the reporting on. So in this, do you see a lot of that? Is that true? And then how do you stand up and kind of showcase your full service capability in this market?
I don't think the AOR is dead, first and foremost. I don't at all. I think we're seeing it quite a bit lately. We never divested media, which a lot of agencies did. And so we've been seeing it quite a bit. I mean, everybody's like, all right, I need both. When people say the AOR is dead, to me as a former client, you are paying for multiple agencies overhead. You are asking one agency to be lead and integrate everybody together and communicate to X agency what the other agency is working on. To me, absolutely, AOR isn't dead. And it's frankly the most efficient way to stretch your dollars.
I would add that I think it depends on what kind of enterprise you're working with. If it's a global, multinational, already massively infrastructurally sort of complex company, matching that with a like-minded roster of independent or sort of pure play agencies might make more sense because they themselves are not necessarily connected as much internally. But I think the market we serve, we are working with marketing departments that are increasingly trying to influence the total of their company, the new product design, obviously contributing to bottom line in terms of data and revenue. Even hiring practices, partnerships, all of those kinds of things are now part of the marketer's remit. Or conversely, we're working with larger companies that want to act smaller and act more integrated themselves.
Gotcha. And it's working. Like what you're proposing out there, what your branding that you're putting out there. You have a very high % win rate. I have a document with the stat, close to 100% win rate, I will say. And 41% of your clients have expanded their scopes into at least 2 agency disciplines. So your approach is working. Can we get into that and how you're growing business through your integration?
Our ability to scale up, scale down. You might come in one door, but then we're like, okay, hey, you have a crisis, so let's bring on, our crisis communications team, for example. So I think that the perfectly mid-size thing is a large part of why we're winning. We have everything under one shop. I think culture is huge. Our agency culture, our relationships are everything for us. Our clients stay with us 3 times longer than the industry average because they love their teams. I find as a new business person and as an old agency relations person, hiring and firing agencies, clients, they're looking for agency partners who are going to push them, who are going to do good work for them, but they also want to work with people they like.
You mentioned it earlier, Gina. Clients will come in with a sense of what kind of solution they want, even if we need this kind of work, social, or we need a new identity system, we need X, Y, and Z. By flipping it to really understand their problems from a neutral perspective, we often talk about being problem specific and solution neutral, and really thinking about what is the actual problem, and is there a more effective solve, or there are combinations of other disciplines necessary to solve said problem. So as Gina mentioned, a client might come in with a social only ask, and we talk to them about design and creating distinctive brand assets so that can show up in social at all degrees of production levels, from high produce to UGC. How do we create that connective tissue? So we're frequently introducing, not because, in fact, I love when we actually detune our offering and say, actually, you don't need this. We're going to go this direction. It's going to cost, it's akin to like going to a restaurant when the waiter tells you, don't eat the steak, it's not good. You trust the rest of that recommendation. So like when we're actually taking solutions that they think they need off the table in service of other more effective or slimmed down solutions, that's when we really start to gain trust.
I was going to ask then, because if a brand and a marketing team, has identified something that they think is a problem, then you come and turn it around. Like, could there be an ego battle there? Could they get upset, and would they want to go to another agency that can solve that specific problem? But you're actually digging deeper, right? And you're trying to help them out. It comes from a point of care.
Particularly with existing clients, the burden is on us to really understand how to frame that problem and the value of solving it. So it becomes less of a subjective question and really more of we're all here to drive business for our clients, right? So if we can show them that the problems they thought they had were not, or had problems sitting behind them, like root cause problems that we need to solve to get to those problems, or there's another higher value problem to solve separate from what they supposed. It's about proving the case. It's a business case scenario in that case.
Right. That's why they're coming and looking for an agency, is that neutral third-party perspective and that support.
Yeah.
So,
I think the old adage is agencies get fired when they're a mirror and not when they're a looking glass. And so we try to be that looking glass.
Love it. Love it. So you guys recently won Value City Furniture, and work was launched or covered today in Ad Age. And I saw that we had a good laugh at that ad spot. So nice work there. But I guess, can you shed some light into the pitch process with Value City Furniture? And I could be wrong. Like, was this a recent win? Or is this a legacy or rebrand? Like, what
relatively recent?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say it was pretty recent. This one is interesting. It really wasn't a pitch in not a formal sense, that there wasn't procurement and search consultants. They came to us. They were familiar with some work that we had done in the furniture category, but we started a series of conversations with them. This was probably a year and a half ago or so. And we just started some conversations. They were here for 4 or 5 hours, and we started in this conference room, and we just took them through our credit capabilities. We looked at their competition. We just started a lot of conversations, which, as an agency that's based on relationships, it was like the perfect, it really was a dream. Yeah, it really was a dream. And then we went down and visited them, and we've had a lot of conversations that's got to this work today we're really proud of.
To add on that, did in those conversations and that feedback, when they did select you all and sign the papers, the MSA, I believe that's what they call it, did they ever comment on your integration model, the full service capabilities, or what really stuck out to them, do you think?
It was much more consultative. We posited some potential opportunities and challenges we saw just as a casual observer. This is a company really going to market with 3 distinct brands, and like, how much does it cost to maintain all of these brands? And so we had some sort of hypotheses. And the nice part about doing it this way, this sort of anti-pitch, is that you're able to sort of float these hypotheses in a almost mulligan state. Like, if these aren't right, this is us just positing what might be opportunities for you, what problems you might be. And I think you get a lot of grace from clients in that early stage, especially if they're not RFPing and looking at 16 other agencies to
Don't
try
you think
to
that's the way to
respond
do it? If you were
pitch process in general.
You did this, like,
What's the
Yeah.
pros and cons?
We didn't do a lot of pitches when I was down the street, brand side. We took great care to build our roster, and then it was then a series of conversations off of that. We didn't do a ton of pitches, but I think there's pros and cons. I mean, I think that I like the idea of bringing in new agencies, and we've won some pitches that we never would have known that brand to begin with, and now here we are, and we're doing really great work with them. So there's pros and cons. It's taxing though. It's taxing on the clients and it's taxing on the agencies. It's hard on both. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a good way to get noticed if you're a junior creative. In an agency, you volunteer for pitch projects.
Oh my gosh,
absolutely! It's the biggest growth hack.
It's the crucible. If you can get in there, and show well, absolutely,
it's the best.
Yeah,
I always recommend that. But I think the friendliness and like the clients noticing you all because of past work, that's the dream right there. But I want to hover here on the friendliness aspect in this city here. So there's a couple different agencies. So how do you kind of like stand out, I guess, in the agency landscape of 15,000 in the world, probably more? And then how do you also stand out in Minneapolis, where there's other really great agencies here too, and they're very friendly with each other? I saw a CEO from another agency here last night, and that was interesting. If I was in New York or in Chicago, and I saw another CEO of an agency, I might have to go on like watch duty and follow behind closely, and maybe give them a little elbow. Yeah.
We're legit all friends. We're legit. I don't know if it's the Minnesotan thing, but we are friends. And in fact, we're often like, if we turn down an opportunity because it's not right for us, we'll call next door down the street and say, hey, I got a lead for you. You would make more sense.
I would say coming here from Chicago, there's one of the nice things I've discovered about living in Minneapolis is that there is a chip on our collective shoulder as a community. And what I mean by that is, I think there was even a little chip on the shoulder of Chicago agencies, to be sure. I would work very
Boston much. Too. We just posted an episode today where they said the same thing.
I mean, I think we're always looking at the New York or other metros across the world, Buenos Aires, London, as like, where's the hotness? And we have to sort of defend ourselves against being overlooked on that. So at the Minneapolis level, I think there's something like 80 different creative agencies, media agencies here, which shocked me.
Wow.
And I think there's a sense that we are wanting to, in my opinion at least, we put ourselves out there. Like, one of our mission is to be, we say internally, being the creative agency of record for the next great era of brand building. And I think when we won our Agency of the Year recognition last year, I was really, really shocked and surprised at how many peers and other agencies were thank you for what you did for Minnesota, what you did for Minneapolis. And that was really gratifying. So I feel like there's a little bit of a collective shoulder on the Minneapolis agency scene to show well against the competition, but also invent the future.
Which leads into the next question pretty nicely, because you guys have a really good retention rate, and like, you keep people here for a long time. I saw a stat here, 90% retention rate, and employees staying for 10 plus years, something along those lines. So people are loving this place. So how do you defy the industry trends of high turnover rate here, and what's the key to keeping talent engaged and committed long term?
I mean, it's cliche isn't even the right word. It's so expected, but it's our culture. It's true. I mean, it was the whole reason I wanted to work here. I knew I wanted to go back to an agency, but it was only Colle McVoy.
A lot. You worked with a lot.
I worked with a lot of them, and it just was, the people here are pretty great, and we're very supportive of each other. I like to say that we're friends, like genuinely enjoy hanging out even on the weekend. I mean, I think that we're innately curious, and so we let people try new things. Everybody gets to, experience different accounts and different opportunities.
I agree. I think I tell my team that I'm trying to grow them into square-shaped talent. If you're familiar with T-shaped talent, this idea, I think the future is going to be square. You got to be really good at a lot of things. And so this agency acts as almost a very small liberal arts college, in that we get to know each other beyond their title. I don't just see Gina as a new business person. I get to know her personally. And what that allows us to do is, I think, really cross-train really well, which I think talent comes out of this with almost a master class on how to think about and proxy for disciplines that might not be their own. So if you're an account person, you should know a lot about what drives media thinking, which makes you a stronger prospective employee in the future, but also makes you a more efficient player right now. And I think that really helps people stay excited and learn a lot.
Yeah, I love that, but I want to flip it around because I've seen it we read about it in the layoffs that happen when agencies lose clients, or there's a new leadership change and they want to restart the creative talent, right? A new coach comes in, you're going to see some new I don't know, assistant coaches, right?
Yeah.
So and something about you that you said earlier about being perfectly mid-size. Is there are you guys balancing this out on the business end where you don't have to lay people off, or are you winning clients enough where you're keeping that revenue coming in so you don't have to lay anybody off?
I think nobody's immune to the whims of the marketplace.
Yeah.
If what's more interesting right now is that there is a pressure on any creative services agency that operates mainly on the full-time employee hourly rate. That is a model that I think is at 1 minute to midnight of viability because of the influx of AI in our workspace. Maybe a year and a half ago, we could step on AI as an efficiency gainer and generate value on top of it. Today, clients are asking for it by name. What are you doing with AI that passes value to me? Knowing that, in other words, I think growth by headcount it's already an outdated idea before AI. I think it's an extremely, extremely vulnerable position right now. So I think to your question about how do you maintain your business, I think we're really, really taking an eye at how these new tools and technologies are going to change our offering, how we need to price ourselves differently, how we need to create solutions that have value outside of just how many people are working on it for how long.
Got it. Wonderful. Then as we get into the collective method, are you able to speak on that? What does this mean here?
Yeah.
John is one of the authors of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Collective method, and I don't use this term internally because it makes people's eyes roll. You were asking for a jargon-free conversation, Gina, so I'm apologizing right now if we get into any of that right now.
Okay.
But it is lifting a lot from the agile software development methodology, which if you are familiar with that, it was a corrective approach to waterfall software development. And waterfall really says I'll try to make this in as simple terms. You're making the homepage, then you make the shopping cart, then you make the checkout. And all of that really found itself to be an inefficient way to create software because it didn't allow for discoveries downstream that could fundamentally inform the upstream. And so in a very similar way that we've been talking about, and because our whole offering is at the intersection of our Venn diagram of different disciplines. If we do not take advantage of that, there are better agencies than us, for sure. So what we are doing with the collective method is borrowing from that agile methodology to have moments of focus and flair. So focus speaks to activities as an independent discipline might do on their own. Like they might, in media, do some competitive spend. And then at key intervals in our workflow, we are meant to get together in what we call collision sessions to really bring all of the fruits of what we might do independently to bear on the problems, help identify problems, et cetera. And that way, you get a lot of buy-in. Everyone understands both the forest and their individual tree, and we're able to work in a very efficient way while also availing ourselves to insights that can come from what would be historically downstream capabilities and skill sets. So we do that, and we're increasingly weaving our own clients into the collective method because one of our big differences we say a lot is we're not a ta-da agency. We don't sequester and go away and come back with some appearance of this is the magic you've been waiting for. We really believe to go far, you go together. And so getting our clients to be co-authors of the solution it does so much for our business and for theirs.
Love it. Any examples that come out from one of these collision sessions?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it didn't get sold or did sell.
Sure.
What are we thinking?
I could probably speak to, you kick me in the shins if I'm not supposed to talk about anything, but Lazy Boy is a great example.
The chair.
Yeah, the Lazy Boy Furniture Company.
I saw something downstairs. I don't know if I was supposed to see it, but I got one.
You can see it. Absolutely. It's been in the market. That's the decliner.
Yeah, give us the rundown there.
Well, so the first door knock from Lazy Boy came with a consciousness that they need to reposition and redesign their identity. And while they might have been looking for graphic identity, logos, their store presence, collateral, as you might see, they really were looking for their soul. They were looking for what kind of a company are we? So to your question about collision session, we brought them here, and this is part of the theatrics of it all. We brought them through a sort of a hall of history of like their brand. Showed them what it's been over time since its inception almost 100 years ago by two cousins named Ed, who invented the very first recliner out of orange crates as a porch chair. And we're talking about that history under the belief that DNA is destiny, like where you're from is a predictor of where you're going, and showing them that DNA over time through. Then in that particular instance, we also had a ceremony where they wrote on paper what they wanted to leave behind, and it was flash paper that we lit on a candle that just whoosh, so we got them in the right headspace.
This is awesome.
We got them in the right headspace.
I need to do that with my exes.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do, turn individuals with personal agendas and maybe concerns and fears into a congregation. And then we brought them into a room that had been outfitted with what we believed their brand could be and let them soak in it. And then after that, we had a bunch of identity systems, and we were working through it very collectively, getting their opinions on which ones felt most right. And so that's an example of really bringing them into the vibe of what we felt was.
Was this a pitch, or was this already won?
We'd already won that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I mean, that would have been a crazy tissue session, if you want to. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That would be what it was.
This is one to look up, but I'll tell the story really quickly. This is like in the 60s and 70s when British Rail apparently was one of the worst networks in the world. Dirty, always late, always just crummy. And they were looking for an agency. And this story, I can find it and show it to you. It seems real. Did this experience for them, which I think is, we got to remember every part of this is making their day more interesting, more fun.
Mm-hmm.
The prospective clients came into the lobby, and apparently the lobby was filthy, cigarettes overflowing the ashtray, and the receptionist was just on the phone and chewing gum and saying, hold on a second, until these folks, prospectives, like, well, tell them we were here and we're leaving now. And they threw open the doors and they're like, ladies and gentlemen, you just experienced British Rail. Let us show you what it should feel like.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've
So
never heard that.
It's an emotional game we're playing,
Yeah.
and we're trying to back it up with science and rationale. But at heart, we buy on our hearts.
Love it. Gina, how do you sell all this? How do you communicate all
For us, it's again, and as an agency about relationships, I'm not a big believer in cold calling and plastering the world with blind emails and stuff like that. I mean, we get a lot of opportunities from relationships. I mean, we had the CMO of a large CPG company come to us because she worked with us in her previous job. And she was like, hey, I need your help, Colle McVoy. And we were activating on the Super Bowl 3 weeks later, around the Super Bowl 3 weeks later. So we get a lot of former client endorsements. We also let our work and our people speak for themselves a lot.
Right. Just like what happened with Lazy Boy. When they saw some of your past work, they wanted to work with you all again. I love that.
I mean, we're super picky about what opportunities we're going to go after. Is it the right fit for us culturally? Do we share their values? Is it the right creative opportunity or business opportunity? Do we have the right folks? Are they excited about it? So we go through a pretty strict vetting process.
Would you want to do pro bono work for breaking and entering media?
Yeah. Ooh, I'll add it to the funnel. We'll talk about it. I'll add it to the consideration set.
There we go.
Values match is a check. We can check the values.
Yep.
All right. Is it good
Gina,
business?
Gina, like I'm feeling this.
Well, you'll get. We said in my past agency, fame, fortune, or friends. Like that was the three.
Yeah, we used to say rich, famous, happy, but we didn't really say that. That was right when I first
What are
started.
you offering, Gina?
Fortune, no. Fame,
potentially.
Yeah, fame, yes. And friends, Jack's good. He's really friendly.
Happy. I've seen some of your videos.
That's awesome.
Jack, yeah.
That's awesome.
We'll
I love
have a
how
live
he just
text
really
thread.
identified himself as a misanthrope. He's like, I'm not so much a people person.
No, I said
but
Jack's
great.
Jack's great. Shall we get into some rapid fire, and then we'll be done here. But you guys crushed it, but we gotta have some fun here.
Okay.
All right, this is rapid fire, so not a lot of thought, and you'll go one after the other here right away. So, favorite Super Bowl ad of all time?
I know this for sure. You want me to buy you some
Yeah.
time?
Yeah,
I mean, I
buzz
think
in. You do have to buzz in.
I'm not going to use the 1984 Apple commercial. I'm going to use the Nissan Z commercial, probably around 1987. It was an incredibly sick cinema. It was about a guy who had a dream, and in his dream, a bunch of like motorbikes and jet fighters were chasing him. And I remember the last bit of it. He goes, and just as they were about to catch me, the twin turbos kicked in and the car flies. It was just like everybody, I think I might have been 18 or 17 at the time. Everybody in my collective unit was like, holy crap, that was the coolest ad ever. It was just really awesome.
Love. Gina, how about you?
No, I'm passing. I can't top that description. Pass.
All right. Well, what's one job you'd be doing if you weren't in advertising or marketing?
Well, my kids say that my retirement job is I'm going to open a coffee shop just so I can make coffee for people and talk to them all day long. And there'll be
That's
dogs
so
allowed.
Right. That is so correct.
Right? Is that perfect for me?
That's so correct. Beep, 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 busy. I'm a washed out English teacher and screenwriter. I think eventually I might like it. I really love the idea of inspiring others to through education. So I'd love to be a professor of some sort, smoking pipes, like patches, all perpetual fall on campus. That's my vibe.
Love it. Yeah. Love it. What campus would you want to?
Somewhere beautiful, probably University of Colorado Boulder.
What's one thing people misunderstand about your role in this agency?
I'll go first. Everybody says to me, I would not want your job. I think it's the greatest job because it's always yes, it's stressful. It's new business, right? And we work long hours and the deadlines are real, but we're always in the honeymoon phase, right? We're always in the courtship, which I love.
And I'm in the divorce litigation side of the business. No, I'm kidding. Inside the agency, I don't know, because it's one of the byproducts of being smaller is I think people really either work with you a lot or see your work. Yeah. I think outside the agency, like the test is, how do I explain what I do to a new barber or somebody like that? And I always resort to advertising, but I hate that. I hate it. Number one, I think advertising is below lawyers in terms of most loathed or least liked companies.
I do not agree with that.
But I think it also limits the real scope of what we're doing today as a creative agency, which is thinking through so many different ways to solve the problem, advertising being but one.
If you can work on any brand or campaign in history, what would it be?
I love car brands. I used to work on Porsche. I loved working on Porsche. Mostly I think the ingredient that I like in almost, to answer your question abstractly, is if they are as into it as they want the consumer to be, I'm in. I don't care what it is, but if they're as much invested in the brand's lore, it's all of that, I can get on board with almost anything. It's when they're phoning it in or not that interested in their core proposition that it can get a little harder.
Gotcha. Gina?
Our sister agency just won a large part of this business, but I've always been Dynork on Starbucks, just selfishly, just the experience of it all. I would love it.
Jack loves Starbucks.
Even right? Yep. But then I think John and for me, I would love to get a crack at the Major League Baseball. Love it.
Oh my God.
Love it.
Cubs.
It's been fun to watch, like how they're sort of changing the
Cubs
perception.
fan?
Yeah, he's a Cubs fan.
Grew up a Sox fan.
I can. It's the mustache.
He's a Cubs guy. Yeah,
It's okay. It's all right. There's
we just broke a record.
Yeah, not the right one.
Yeah.
All right, last one. One word to describe Colle McVoy today.
Changing.
Special.
Boom. That's the show, everybody. How can people reach out, say hello, if they want to learn more about each of you?
Check me out on LinkedIn at John Doyle.
I'm active on LinkedIn. I will respond to your messages. Yeah, Gina Gray, Gray.
Thank you, Gino. Thank you, guys.
Nicely
Thanks
done.
so much.
Nicely done.
Cheers. Thank you.